The psychedelic realm, a realm of your own consciousness where you self-analyze and reflect on the things that you've done in a certain scenario or a certain situation that you've been in before. Today, this is Pompey. This is the You Get Me podcast, and that was a super heavy, super weird introduction, but I'm here to talk about the effects of psychedelics, and not because I am promoting drug use, but because there's a certain way to think about things. And everyone has their own little vision of how things should be. They don't the prison system in the United States of America, the government system, everything that's here is working as it is now. A lot of people shut out the ideas to think differently. And when I say to think differently, I mean just the idea of let me do something because I think personally it'll be great. I think it'll be beautiful. Let me do this. I mean every aspect of individuality, and every person has their own soul, their own spirit, their own mentality that they grew up with. And it's truly beautiful things to be alive in the age of tomorrow. A lot of people frown on acid. They say, oh, you're gonna fry your fucking brain. And in wholehearted honesty, I think there's potential to fry a brain on acid. Just because with acid, the straight drug, there's sometimes additives that actually sometimes cut it with speed or even coke. And if you find a good, this is gonna sound terrible, but if you find a good acid dealer, you could potentially change your life. And I'm not saying acid, go fucking fry your mind, because not everyone is ready for it. Not everyone is ready to take that spiritual journey into themselves, dive that heavy into their own psyche. Mushrooms, well, little, more natural. They're legit a fungus that come from Earth. And there's actually been a bunch of, I forget the actual scientist or philosopher, whatever his actual title is. He says that human evolution started with apes eating mushrooms. And when I think about something like that, I say, I legitimately see potential for that to be a real case. A monkey eating a mushroom and diving into its own psyche. And then eventually, years upon years, human beings were created from that. And I'm like, that's a pretty heavy subject. And a lot of people are not willing to accept that because they want to believe in the higher power, something that the church, like Christians, Catholics, Muslims to some extent, kind of ingrain into their own culture. They say that the creator has all the answers and that he watches us and he does things. And totally, I kind of agree with that to some extent, but I feel like nature itself is the creator in a large aspect. Like everywhere that you go, you walk into the woods, you do whatever the fuck. You go to the store, you go to Target, Walmart, wherever. You are confronted with the creator every time you do so. And a lot of people say, that's God, that he's watching you. And it's like, people think that God is some dude just in the sky looking down at the people, when I think he's everywhere as far as perception of what God is. I think the consciousness of humanity itself is a metaphorical representation of God. And I don't know if that's me just fucking speaking hearsay, but it's an opinion that I have that I've formed over, my time here on this fucking earth. And it's something that I personally, I back it a lot. I give some level of credence to it because of my own personal experiences and the things I've seen. I've experienced so much weird shit in my time as this person. And I've seen the world in weird angles and weird spots. And I've seen the bad shit too. I've seen fucking terrorist attacks, fucking people beheading other people. The cartel is there's so much terrible shit in this world where I'm like, fuck, man, is that what people are doing now? Are we just doing that? And I tell myself, there's no way that they can be comfortable and content doing those things. And I would like to think that most people don't have a certain bloodlust. But at the same time, you look at the animal kingdom, and lions eat gazelles all the fucking time. Lions tear apart zebras without a second thought. They're just eating. They're having their dinner. And I always say, wow, to put a human life above an animal life when they're both beating hearts and they both have blood that runs through them, and they, it's very weird to think about because you don't know how a lion thinks unless you are a lion. Which, who knows, man? Maybe you want to claim that you were a lion at one point, and I was like, hey, whatever. Maybe you were in a past life, if you believe in Buddhism, if you believe in reincarnation, which is something that I've thought about before. Buddhism is very interesting. And if I had to choose a religion specifically, I would probably choose that, only because it's very peaceful, and they keep to themselves. They don't really do much. When if you travel back in the day, go to the Catholics, And, there was crusades. People were getting killed for not believing in a higher power. And I'm like, wow, like, people were getting killed for opinions. The fucking Salem witch trials, like, girls were getting fucked up because people made assumptions on what they were, and a lot of them weren't even witches. They were just girls making bread. Like, I'm laughing about it right now, but it's terrible. I shouldn't be laughing at that. That shit really happened, and it's pretty shitty. But delving back into the whole psychedelic discussion, acid, mushrooms, ayahuasca, which is more of a Native American traditional journey into the spiritual realm, where you kind of find yourself in a metaphysical state. It's very weird to put the words together and describe it as a whole, because it's something that not everybody has a full grasp on. And people are always going to be people, and there's going to be people that are more open-minded than others. There's going to be people that are more closed-minded than others, and it's just the very nature of our own existence. It's just human beings trying to figure out a certain way to go about their everyday, their lives. I have nothing against people who choose to live confined to the chains of their own creation. And when I say that, that sounds like some heavy that sounds like some very philosophical, and I don't mean it to be like that. It's just my speech patterns is a little fucked up sometimes, and I understand that. So apologies if I come across way too intellectual. And I'm genuinely not trying hard to. It's just the best way to describe a certain idea, in my mind at least. Mushrooms I've done 3 times in total, and every time I did it, I felt a part of the world like I had never felt prior. I felt myself existing in the same realm as everything and everyone. My friend Jose, who had the same experience, talks about how he was perceiving someone else talking to him. And I kind of had the same deal going, but I had the wherewithal to understand that it was just my own consciousness speaking to me through itself. And it was my own fluid ideas and my own... I could understand that it was never not me speaking to me. And I think a lot of people lose focus on that. A lot of people, when they do a drug like mushrooms or acid, even though mushrooms is much more natural than acid, and I would definitely recommend it over acid, just because there's less potential for damage, just because you don't know what the fuck's in acid, and I just wouldn't be fucking with it, to be honest with you. Human consciousness is very complex, and people don't really understand, what makes a person alive, what makes a dog alive. And there's a philosopher that I'm really into named Alan Watts, and he talks about how if you were to find out that the same moment the involuntary circulation of your blood, the same moment that you find out it is you who controls the involuntary circulation of the blood in your body, you will at the same time find out it is you who assigns the sun rays. And that's pretty beautiful. I mean, it's pretty much, he's saying that human beings exist in the universe, and the universe speaks to us in indirect ways of communication. Like, we all kind of are here, and everyone else is here with us, and we do stuff just as a human race, as a species. When I think about those things, when I get really deep into my own thoughts and really deep into my own head, sometimes I trip out, just because it's like, wow, like, everybody's got a goal. And it's something I talked about in the first episode, of the introductory episode, and I wanted to offer an insight to people that may have been thinking, oh, I want to try acid, I want to try mushrooms. If you legitimately can get the choice between the two, I would go with mushrooms, just because you're probably not going to get so... Acid will freak you out if you go in unprepared, just because it's sometimes cut with other stuff. To find pure LSD is difficult, and I'd rather go with mushrooms, in all honesty, if you're trying to do that. But I also would say it's not for everybody, and you have to have an understanding of who you are at a certain time. You have to be mentally strong, because if you go in weak-minded, your psyche will jump to the worst places that it's been, and it will say you were traumatized as a kid, say you were molested, say you were anything like that, any traumatic experience. Your psyche will automatically bring that up, only to allow you to get through it. And some people at some levels just can't. They can't confront the issues that they have deep down. People have terrible relationships with their fathers, with their mothers, with etc. However they live their life up into the point of them being there at that second. Everybody will react different to that. Which is why I don't recommend it to everybody. I want people to have a sense of self, to understand who they are, and be strong-minded about your thoughts and your beliefs, because it will throw you for a loop. It's going to send you into a realm of your own psyche, someplace that you've never been before. And a lot of people call it a high. They just get fucked up on drugs. I totally agree with people, but there is a spiritual aspect to it, whether or not you want to give it credence. It's really beautiful stuff. It really is. And like I said, it's not for everybody. So don't just go and be like, I'm going to do this and that. If you're genuinely curious about it and you want to take the journey of self-discovery and you want to figure things out about you that you may have never known, take the leap, but do your proper research first. Make sure you know what's up. Make sure you understand the aspects of you going into it beforehand, because you jump into it with a complete ignorance to it, you will lose your shit. And it's not a long-term thing. You're going to be high as fuck for 6-7 hours, maybe. Depends on how much you do. And I don't want people to go into it unprepared, which is why I speak very hesitantly about it, because I understand the potential for damage, the potential for people to just lose their fucking minds. And actually had a friend pass away on mushrooms, not because of the mushrooms himself, but because he was tripping and he wandered onto a train track. And I mean, I'm sure you can put the pieces together at that point. And it was very tragic. I miss that dude a lot. I was never super close with him, but he was a dude that I knew, and he was a dude that I loved talking to. He was a beautiful spirit that was gone way too soon, and it was unfortunate what happened. But that's why I preach to people and I say, just know what the fuck you're doing. And preach was probably a bad word. I hope I don't come across as preachy, but have a sense of you before you jump into something like that. If, in all honesty, if you have some genuine issues, like I said before, if you're molested as a kid and you haven't been able to confront that deep within yet, seek out ayahuasca, seek out peyote, go to a Native American reservation and ask about it. Because most people are willing to help you, and people in those fields. I just wanted to get the discussion of psychedelics out there, because I've been asked before. I've been asked a bunch of times, like, what do you think about this? What's your opinion on that? And I say, it's beautiful, but there is potential for bad things to happen. And when I say bad, I just mean you confronting your own emotions may not be ready for it. I could totally understand that. I could totally see that. But just, like I said, man, do your research. Do your due diligence about the things that you're curious about before you jump into them head first. Because there's potential to go wrong. And I would hope that nobody would have to hit the wall of incorrectness. Because if you are on a legitimate journey of self-discovery and you care about you as your own person, it is a good step to take in wholehearted honesty. But like I said, be ready for it. Please be ready for it. Don't be an idiot about it. Okay? That is all I wanted to say. That is the thoughts I wanted to get out here on this. I had a request, actually, to talk about my personal experiences with it, which is why I did this. But I hope I've been able to offer some insight. This is actually a short one. And when I get the episode, this is not even episode 2. This is just I don't know what I'll label this. I guess you guys will see the title or whatever. But this has been a You Get Me short podcast, short little insights offering an outlook on the psychedelic realm of mushrooms, acid, etc. The whole flower child movement. And it's beautiful stuff, like I said prior. But be ready. And I've said that so many fucking times, but I can't stress it enough. Like, you have to legitimately be prepared in your own psyche for that experience. So don't jump into it. So be happy, but also understand that your psyche is gonna make you confront things that you may not have wanted to confront at a certain point. Just like if you were molested as a kid, if your parents did beat you, if traumatic experiences happen to you, it will bring them up, not to make you feel like shit, but so you can get through it and move past it and move on with your life. So in closing, this has been Pompeii. Peace. Do yoga.